All right, in this one I'm going to be making the Backseat Bucket, which was sent to me in my ambassador box from the Quilted Cow. And it hangs in your car there, and you can put whatever you'd like in there. I mean, if it's your trash or your receipt bucket or your purse or anything that you want, it's a really good size, and it just attaches over the head part of your seat. Okay, and so I got a kit as well, and I got this fabric here. And it goes perfectly because I've got a cat over there and there's another one somewhere. Came with the hardware, the webbing, and it also came with another piece of fabric, and this is the soft and stable, which will help give structure, and some fusible interfacing. So here we go. So I've cut all my pieces. I've chosen this fabric to be the outside, and I accidentally cut my fabric an inch shorter than it was supposed to be. So because I cut my exterior an inch shorter, I just cut my interior lining an inch shorter. So I've got my two pieces there, and I have already gone ahead and fused the woven fusible interfacing to them. And I've got my pocket here, and I've already fused the woven fusible interfacing that they sent in the kit to it as well. And then I have my two pieces of soft and stable. When it's in the kit, it'll come out wrinkled, but all it takes is just a little bit of steam from your iron, and those wrinkles will come right out. So I would recommend doing that, just steaming it so it lays nice and flat before you cut it. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to baste my exterior fabric to my soft and stable. And I do have basting spray, but I'm going to use this Quilter Select Free Fuse, which the Quilted Cow sent to me in my ambassador box. I already had some in my stash, but I added a second one. And all I did, you can't really see it, but because it's white and this is white, but I just sprinkled this over. I didn't do this part yet because it's hanging over, so I just did the top part. And then I laid my fabric over it. And it is recommended that you use parchment paper or a pressing sheet, and I think that's because this is basting kind of like powder. If it gets contact with your iron, then it could stick to it, gum it, make it not good. So do that, and then all you do is apply heat to it, and it will semi-fuse together. So really neat product. And some people worry about the spray gumming up their machine, but that powder does not. Alright, so I have fused that to my, now I didn't get quite along the edges, but that's fine. I have enough basted down so it will hold, so I can do basting stitches. So I've just taken my ruler, and I'm going to just use the decorative stitch I really like on my machine, and I chose to measure every 3 inches, and I drew some lines with my chalk pen here. You take this off. I also got this in my brand ambassador. I forget the name of it, but this rolls, and then the chalk comes out, and you get a nice precise tip, and then it has a brush on the end, so you can just brush it off if you'd like to. As you are doing if you make a mistake or something. So I'm going to take this over to the machine. Now you can quilt however you'd like. You can do straight lines, you can do diagonal lines, and then do other diagonal lines the opposite way and do like crisscross. It's up to you. Be as creative as you want. I'm just going to turn it to my decorative stitch and just stitch straight on the lines that I drew. And I'm going to do this for both of my pieces. That one's not marked yet, but it will be. So here is my stitching. I chose purple. I almost went with this pink, but I chose purple, and I just chose this decorative stitch. And then after I was done with both of them, I had to cut out the square from each of the bottom corners. I did not do it to the top, just the bottom, because this is where we're going to box the corners so it can stand up. Alright, so for here I put my lining pieces right side together. And then what we had to do was we had to taper. So up here it starts off the same size as you cut it originally, and then it slowly grows a little bit shorter according to the pattern. And so I just lined it up, and you can absolutely draw a line, but I just lined up my ruler, and then I trimmed off that excess. So I made sure to measure where it was supposed to be down here, and then I trimmed off the excess, and I did that to both sides. So it's not much in from where it was originally, but it is a little bit in. So, and then the next step, I'm going to cut out a square on each of the bottom corners. I also had to trim a little bit off the bottom as well. But there's a nice diagram for this on the pattern. And once I cut out my squares from each one according to the pattern, then I'm going to just sew the sides together, and then I'm going to sew the bottom together. I'm not going to sew the corners. So just from the top down, and then from wherever the corner cutout starts over to where the other corner square ended, and then the other side. Okay? Alright, so here's what it looks like when it's all done. That side stitched up. I did not do anything with that. And then I stitched a little here, and I left an opening to turn this inside out when we're done, and stitched that a little bit that side, and then stitched up that side. So now we're going to move on to the pocket. Alright, so here's the pocket, and all I did was just fold it in half, and then I pressed it, and I'm going to sew along this long edge. And then I'll turn it right side out. Alright, so on my pocket, I top stitch along both long edges there and there. This is not sewed down, but I did place it according to the pattern placement, measured down from the top and then placed it. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to stitch through all the layers. I'm going to stitch the sides and the bottom, okay, to attach it to this panel. But if you want to, you can leave this just as one long pocket, or you can divide it into however many pockets you want. What you would do is just, you'd measure the length of the pocket you want, and you can mark out a line, and then you'd sew on that line, and then you'd create individual pockets here. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I'll think on it, and then I'll show you what I came up with. So I put the shorter pieces of my webbing through my D-rings, and then I just stitched at the end there. And then I took my long piece of webbing and I put it through my swivel hook here. And for the end here, I might sew again right there. But anyway, you don't want the raw edge, so I just folded it under, and it's kind of like a double fold. And then I'm going to do it for my D-ring with my other end. So I'm just going to put it through, and then on the other side, once I get to the other side, I'm just going to fold this part under the end there, and then I'm just going to fold it over that D-ring, just like that. And then I'm just going to stitch it down close to the fold there. Alright, the next step is to take your this is the one I attached to the long strap, and it doesn't matter which side you go on, it's your preference. And then this one was just the standalone short one. So I measured in from the side on each end according to the directions, and now I'm just clipped in place. Okay, and this was hanging really long, and I'm going to be sewing, so I didn't want it in the way, so I just clipped it up to that so it's out of the way when I'm sewing. Alright, the next step is to take the front piece of your bag and lay it right sides together, and then you're going to clip the sides, side, and the bottom, and then you're going to sew both the side, and that side, and you're going to sew across the bottom. Do not sew the corners, okay? We'll sew those in a little bit. Alright, so now it's time to box the corners of the exterior bag and the lining, but I'll just show you how to do here. So here on one corner, all you have to do is just take the sides here and pull it apart. So just pull it apart, and then you're going to want to line up this seam and try nesting them if you can. So nesting, I just turn one to one side and the other to the opposite side, and then I just take those seams and nest them right up against each other. And you're going to take some clips and just put a few in place. And then you're going to sew according to the seam allowance on your pattern, straight line all the way down. And you're going to do it to each corner. So you'll box the corners on your exterior, and then you'll do it to your lining as well. Alright, So I boxed the corners here of the lining, and I also boxed the corners here on my exterior, and that's what it looks like. I ended up just doing one line because I was like, maybe this could fit some pens or my phone. And a lot of times I put my mail in my cart, and I was like, this pocket would be big enough maybe to fit my mail in, so I just left this one long pocket. That's the front, there's the back, it's still clipped there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this exterior piece and I'm going to put it inside my lining. And I'm going to line up all my edges and seams and clip everything so I can sew the tops together. Alright, so here it is all clipped together, and I found that, you know, my exterior bag is a little bit bigger, so on the opening here in the lining I just like pulled a little bit of it through so that way I could easily match things up. So now I'm just going to sew all the way around and attach these tops together. On the back though, I was clipping and I was like, maybe if I would go back I would actually baste those webbing straps down just so that they were secure. But anyway, they're clipped in place, and I'll just go slow and make sure they're lined up before I sew over those places where my webbing straps are. Alright, so now that it's sewed at the top, now I get to come down to the bottom and pull everything through my opening and turn everything right side out, and then we'll sew that opening closed. So here's the opening. I just tucked the fabric in and under and lined it up, and then just top stitch it closed. So now I'm going to push the lining into the bag, and once that's done, you have the option of pushing the lining all the way in so all you see is the exterior fabric before you top stitch around, or you have the option of leaving a little bit of the lining out so it looks like you have a binding and then top stitching all the way around. I think I'm going to choose this one for mine. Alright, so there is my backseat bucket. There's the front. You can see I top stitched all the way around, and here is the back. And there is the handle that you can use to wrap it around. I guess really on this part too, if you measure how low you want it to hang, you could shorten it if you wanted to when you got to that step. I just made it according to the pattern size. And there's the inside, everything's boxed and looking nice. And this is the first thing I've made with cat fabric, and I really like this line. So thank you Quilted Cow for this kit, and I hope you enjoy making your own backseat bucket. These are really, I think, pretty beginner friendly, and they make great gifts, or just for yourself. So happy sewing!